Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on another Kubernetes object that is Replicaset. So, today we'll be discussing about replica sets. First of all, what is replica set? The name itself is suggesting us that it is a set of replicas. Set of replicas. You know, replicas means copy, right? Copies. Copies of what? What are we copying? Well, we are copying something called pod. In the previous session, I have discussed about pods, the the smallest unit of Kubernetes. Okay, so in replica set, what we are doing is that we are basically creating copies of the pod itself, and the whole thing, the whole set is called the replica set. Like for instance, suppose this is something called A. Okay, now you copy this same thing one time, okay, and three times. Okay, now you have in total of 3 A's, right? This total 3A is a set of replicas. The same analogy is with our object today, which is replica set. So again, to sum up, what is replica set? Replica set is basically a set of replicas or copies of what? Of pods. What is pods? Pods are the smallest unit of Kubernetes. So if you have forgotten what is pods, let me give you a quick summary. Okay, suppose this is a container. This is a container. Okay, suppose this is a Docker container, but is it a part of Kubernetes? No. When will it become a part of Kubernetes? When you encapsulate it in a pod. When you put it inside a pod, your container becomes a part of Kubernetes, and you will be able to do whatever you can do in Kubernetes with the container now. You can upscale it, downscale it, you can do whatever features there are in Kubernetes. Okay, so it is the entry gate to Kubernetes. Clear? Okay. So we're done with what is replica set and a basic analogy of what does it do. Now how? Previously, we have discussed that in order to create a pod, we need to write what? We need to write YAML configuration files. YAML, right? I've discussed it in the previous session, which was about pod, creating pod. And I have discussed that in Kubernetes, there are objects like pods, there are replica sets, there are deployments, there are stateful sets, etc. I guess there are 50 plus objects that you can make in Kubernetes. Okay, everything in every object you have a configuration file called YAML. Okay, this YAML thing. And I have told you in each case, in every case, there is a common pattern. There are 4 arguments in your YAML file. First of all, API version. Secondly, kind. Third is the metadata. And the fourth is the spec. Okay, these are the fundamental or the basic uh, structure of your YAML file in every object in Kubernetes. Clear? So we can make a pod by using this structural configuration file. Okay, now suppose I have created a pod. Okay, suppose this is my pod. Let me give you a better idea in a blank space. Suppose this is a pod, okay, pod, and suppose it is a web software, okay, that takes requests. It is configured in a way so that it can take 5k requests at max. But suppose at one day you have 10k or 15k requests. Will it be able to handle this? Well, no. It is above its range or capacity, right? So what can we do? The Kubernetes solution to this is that it creates duplicates. Okay, it creates duplicates. It's duplicate number 1, duplicate number, let's see if I can pick it. Okay. Uh, yeah, duplicate number 2. The whole thing that you see, the whole thing, including the duplicates, the replicas, is called our replica set, or RS in short. Okay. So what will happen here? You have configured your file, your pod for 5k requests. Now you have 15k requests. Now, after creating a replica set, you have the same thing but thrice. You have clones or copies of the same exact pod in your replica set. So, if there's 15k requests, it will get divided into 3 pods. The 3 pods are exactly the same, so it will work exactly the same. Okay, so this is the analogy of replica set and how it what is the reason of it. Okay, and as I was talking about YAML file, that how do you build this kind of things, I have discussed that how do you make a pod in the last session. Today I've also mentioned that the basic structure is the same. Okay, basic structure is the same, but there will be added arguments when you want to create a replica set. Okay, how we're going to come into that part a bit later. Okay, so up until now, let me give you a quick summary what I have discussed. I've discussed what is replica sets, and I've discussed why do we need replica set. The what and why portion is done. So the next thing is that how how do we make replica sets? Okay, okay, fine. So as I was telling you that in order to make any Kubernetes object, you'll be needing what? You'll be needing YAML file. And I was saying that the basic configuration for all of the Kubernetes object is these 4 arguments. Okay, so let me show you the YAML configuration file for replica set. So guys, this this is the YAML file configuration. Don't worry, I have taken it from the documentation. Okay, here let me show you. I've taken this file from here. Okay, Kubernetes replica set. Just search it and you'll get it. Okay, no big deal. Okay, so this is the YAML configuration file for replica set. So let me give you the heading RS in simple terms. Now, what does it mean? Let me break down. First of all, you can see here the basic fundamental arguments that I have just told you. 4 arguments: API version, kind, metadata, and spec. Okay, these are what? These are all related to the replica set itself. Okay, the API version is related to the replica set. Kind is replica set, meaning the file, the object that you are creating is a replica set. The metadata I have told you in the last session that it is like the detail. Okay, I'm creating a replica set. What will be the set's name? Front end. And some additional approach, some additional uh, key value pairs, like if someone asks what is the app app value of front end, you will be able to answer it is guest book. What is the tier of the replica set front end? It is front end. So the key value pairs you can do anyone. Okay, it's your choice, but you should be under the labels argument. Clear? Okay. So let me discuss the further. Wait. So the next thing that I am discussing is about specs. Okay. What is specs? Specs is the further details of the replica set. Okay. So guys, this was the four major arguments that you must have in a YAML file. Okay. API version, kind, metadata, and spec. These four arguments represent what? Represent the replica set. The name is for replica set, the app argument is for replica set, and the tier argument is for replica set. And in labels, as I mentioned, you can add any more. Like here is app and tier. You might add let's say level. You added a random argument. You can do that. This is your choice. But the fundamental arguments must remain the same. Like you have here uh, the labels. This is a fixed argument. Okay, you can't change that, but you can add these things. Clear? Okay. So we are clear on API version, we are clear on kind, we are clear on metadata. Now for the main part, the specs. Okay. In spec, firstly, you can see an argument, replica set, right? And it is mentioned 3. So as you have guessed it, that it is going to create 3 copies. 3 copies. 3 copies of what? As I have shown you here, 3 copies of the pod. Okay, if there's an existing pod, you are just telling it to create 2 more pods, so that in total there's 3 pods, the same pod, the exact pod. Okay, fine. So this is the replica set, replicas argument. Secondly, we get a really important argument that is called selector. Okay, and in that we have match label argument, and it is holding tier front end. What does it do? Now let me tell you this one. Suppose in a cluster you have some pods. Okay, let me have a blank space. Yeah, this is a pod number 1, pod 1. Suppose this is pod 2, this is pod 3. Okay, so inside pods, if you see, you'll see that there are these 4 arguments still present. Okay, if I show you, I already have a pod YAML file. This one is for pod. There's API version, there's kind, there's metadata, and spec. These are also present in pod. But in metadata, the details of the pod itself, the file or the object that you are creating, the name is nginx. See this? So as I have told you, in metadata, you can add labels. You can add labels. So similar to this, you can add labels, as many labels. So in a pod there can be labels. Okay, in a pod there can be labels inside the metadata, similar to this. Here it is not present, but you can add that. Okay, so let's say this pod 1 has some label app let's say A, and pod 2 has a label called A also, but pod 3 has a label of app value B. Now when you are giving the argument inside the RS, that match label, sorry, selector, select match label, as you might have guessed, it is basically gonna match the labels. Match the labels. You have to write which label. Now if you write that app A, so the replica set, what will it do? It will see the cluster, the whole cluster, and find out which pods have the labels matched with this one. So it is gonna go to this one, and it will see in the label parts it matches with its label. So it will pick this pod. It will go to pod 2, it matches this pod, so it will pick this pod. If it goes to this one, it sees it doesn't match, so it won't pick this one. Clear? So select and match label is basically matching the pod labels with the replica set. Okay, otherwise the replica set won't be able to know which pod to copy, right? Okay, like if I have uh, B here, app B, the replica set then will pick this pod number 3, and make a clone of this one. It won't pick this or this pods. It will specifically pick this one since the labels are matched. Clear? Okay. So let's get back to our YAML file. So we are clear with the replicas, how many replicas, and we are clear with selectors. It basically matches this one with the pod labels. Which pod matches to its labels. Clear? Okay, fine. The next important that replica set has is template. Now what is template? First of all, let me just highlight. This is a main one, this is also a main one, this is also a main one. Now what is the template? This whole part, this is a must. And why it is a must, I'm coming to that part. Like you have selected the labels, like which pod is matching your label. Let's say pod 1 has matched with your label, that is tier front end. Now what the replica set did, it picked it up. It picked it up and it made 3 copies of it. Okay, it made. But the question in between making and identifying. Firstly, it identified, right? Identified that it is pod 1. It is pod 1 that matches my labels. And you have to create copies. One is identifying, another one is creating. Now the question is, how will it going to create? How? Okay, it identified the pod to copy, but the question is how, and the how part is defined in this argument called template. Okay, if you look at it, in the template itself there are metadata, there are label, spec, and what it is actually saying is that when you are creating a new pod, it should match this template. You should create a pod, copy a pod according to the template. So just imagine if there is no template argument in your YAML file, what will it do? It will identify your pod, but it won't be able to create copies because it doesn't know how to create copies. It doesn't know based on what will it create copies. Clear? So you have to tell in the YAML file that look, this is the template for you. you copy the template which I have written in the YAML file. So basically you have to identify or in details mention what you want to copy. Okay, so in metadata you mention the copied stuff will have the tier label frontend, and it will have the container name php redis and this image. Clear? Okay, so guys, this was all about the YAML file. Let me again in short just summarize for you. API version, kind, metadata and spec are the fundamental arguments in YAML file. Clear? Okay. The API version for replica set is exactly this. Mind the case sensitivity. It should be exactly this. Okay? And the kind is replica set. And in metadata, it is your choice whether you want to name your replica set frontend or anything else. You can add some labels to it for identifying, for matching for later. You have your choice. You can add as many as you like. Okay, then you have the spec portion, the main part. In this you put the details of the replica set. Here we have a replicas arguments, mention 3 copies. The selector will match the pods with the similar labels and pick those up, identify those, and using the template argument, whatever in the template it will create. Clear? I hope so. So let me just for your brainstorming, let me give you some scenarios what might happen. So let's say there's pod number 1, pod 1, there's pod 2 and pod 3. Now let's say they have labels app A, app B, app C. You have a replica set, mention that it will select match label. It will match labels that are app A. So which pod will be picked? This is the matching label and it matched with this one. So it will pick this one. Fine. Okay. Now suppose that this app also is A. What will happen? In this case, it will pick both this one and also this one, this pod and also this pod. It doesn't match, so it won't pick this one. Clear? Now, if your replica set has replica 3, what will happen then? It has one pod here, one pod here, but it needs to maintain a replica of 3. 3 replicas must it have. So what will it do? It will create another pod according to the template. This is the scenario. Clear? It will pick whatever pod that matches with its label, but create according to its template. There should be 3 replicas. If you want 5, 6, just replace this one and you will have it. Okay? Okay, fine. So this was the YAML configuration of replica set, and here I have to make a comparison with this is RS replica set and this is for pod. These 4 fundamental arguments are in both sides, as you can see. Okay, this metadata is for pod, this metadata is for replica set, mind it. Okay, and the details is in the specs. Basically in the template part you can see the whole this thing, the whole portion is mentioned in the template part. Okay, now you might have guessed that whenever I am creating a copy, I am creating the copy according to the template. So all of the stuffs that I mentioned in the pod should be in my template argument, right? As you can see, metadata is also present in the template. Spec is also present in the template. Okay. So this was the comparison or the similarity between the two YAML files. Now the question is again that why replica sets? The main thing, why replica set? I have mentioned that it creates replicas, creation, but another important thing for which we use replica set, the main thing, it maintains the replica. By that I mean is that if you have 3 replicas, the replica set will ensure all the time there are 3 present in your cluster. If one dies, it will again create it according to the template. Okay, if 2 dies, it will create 2, but it will always make sure the consistent number of replica is present in your cluster. Clear? Okay. So this was about the theory portion. Let me just quickly, very quickly summarize for you. Then we'll go to the hands-on part. Okay. So up until now, what we have discussed, that what is replica set? Replica set is basically a set of replicas. Replica meaning copy. Copies of what? Pods. What are pods? Pods are basically something that encapsulates container and introduces it to Kubernetes cluster. For all the objects in Kubernetes, we have these 4 things present in the YAML file, and similarly we have this for the replica set too, I have mentioned. Okay. Now then I have told you why we need replica set. First one is that it creates copies. Second one is that it maintains the consistent number. It will maintain the replica set number all the time. If any pod dies, it will recreate it again according to the template. Then I have discussed with you that about the yes, the replica set, YAML file, the API version, the kind, metadata, specs, replicas, selectors, and template. All I have discussed. So I hope I am clear on this. So let's get to the hands-on part, shall we? Before that, let me show you the documentation of the replica set also. As you can see, replica set's purpose is to maintain a stable set of replica pods running at any given time. Clear? Okay. So to illustrate, I'm gonna use something called killer coda, a isolated environment. Okay. So you can just Google killer coda and it will give you a playground, Kubernetes playground, and you will be able to practice. Okay, it is for practice purpose so that I can have an isolated environment. Okay, let it load. It is for 1 hour, but it is enough for me to show you guys what is replica set and how it works. Okay, let me just, yeah, okay, fine. So hmm. So let's see, let's write our first. Everything is okay. Okay, before it loads, let me just copy the code here. I'm gonna be using the documentation. Okay, we'll be going through the documentation as we practice the hands-on part. Okay, 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 it loaded. Okay, fine, let's see. Yes. Okay, fine. So guys, let me just see. Okay, so first of all, let's do a quick kubectl command, kubectl get all. I hope you guys know about the Kubernetes kubectl commands. Okay, I hope you guys know it. So kubectl get all gives us all of the objects that are present in my cluster. So here, as we can see, there is a service object, but there's no pod or anything. Let's create. Okay, so we are going to create a replica set called, let's say, rs.yaml, and we are going to just paste whatever we have copied from the documentation and save it. Okay, where's the option? Yes. So we have created a rs.yaml file. If you ls it, and you will be able to see it. The process is very similar to the pod creation. You just have to do the same command, create -f rs.yaml. kubectl will go into the file and look whatever for whatever it needs and create the object according to the file. Okay, so let's press enter, and as you can see, replica set has been created. Now if you go to get all, you'll be able to see there's 3 pods running and there's 1 replica set. Container is still being created. Okay, it is still being created. Now you might be wondering, I don't have any pods in the system at first, then how it is creating a pod? Well, the answer is that, let me go back to the, yes, yeah, the answer is that, you see this template, if there's no if there's no matching labels, what the replica set do, it will create a pod according to the template and make it 3 copies of it. Okay, so you don't need a predefined or pre-created pod so that you can make the replica set. Okay, if you have predefined or pre-created in your system, it should match with your label. Okay, if it matches, then the rs will create the template, and if there is no pre-created pod, then rs will create 3 replicas of the template itself. So you don't need a predefined or pre-created pods. If it is not, just mention in the template and it will create it for you. Okay, like we have here in our case. So now after for some time, again, as you can see, in the first one it was container creating, but now it is container running. Clear? So we have 3 pods in our replica set. We have a replica set object 2. So this is so easy to create, as you can see. Now another thing that you might be wondering, that as I have told you, if I delete 1 pod, what will happen? So let's do that. Let's see what happens. Let's do kubectl delete rs. Which to delete? Let's delete this one. Sorry, yeah. So let's delete this one. Copy it. It is not rs, it is actually the pod. We are going to delete the pod inside the replica set. Okay, the pod inside front end. As you can see, the front end part is mentioned here, that this pod is inside front end. Okay, so we're going to delete this one. Guys, keep in mind of the h. Let's do it, paste it and enter. Okay, there's something wrong. What's the problem? Okay, let me let's copy this one and this, paste it. Mm, okay, let me see the documentation. I don't know what is the problem here. It should have worked. Okay, let's see. Don't worry, guys. We'll get through this. Everything that you need is in the documentation. So if you get stuck, just go to the documentation and you will find it. Okay, let's see the delete part. Mm, So guys, it was nothing. I just made an error. It should be this pod shouldn't exist. Okay, so that let me again show you that kubectl get all. Okay, now you see that there are three pods. I just deleted one. Okay, I troubleshooted it and a new pod was created 21 seconds ago. So if you want to again see it, the command is kubectl delete, sorry, delete, and you just need to copy this one and nothing else. Let's say this 5 minutes 6 second, this one, let's delete this one, press enter. Okay, again I have mistake, a spelling mistake, yes, and as you can see that this pod got deleted. Now if I again do get all, you will see just now instantly a new pod got created. I deleted it, but a new one got created instantly. So this is how Replicaset handles the copies. If there's any pod deleted or it is killed or any trouble, it will again create it like you have seen here, and this time the ID has changed. Okay, it is the exact copy, but the ID is changed. You see three different IDs for the three different pods. Again, if you delete another one, let me delete another one, you will see another one be created and it will have different ID. Let me delete the older one, yes, so paste it and enter. So it got deleted. Now again let's do get the pods, just the pods. So as you can see, a new pod got created 9 seconds ago. Clear? It got created 9 seconds ago. So like, and it has a different ID. It has a different ID. Okay, this one got deleted and a copy with a new ID got created. So this was the replica set, guys. It is so simple to create a replica set, and as I have mentioned, you don't need to have a pre-created pod. If you have pre-created pod, just mention in the select match label and it will match it with the pod already existing. Okay, and if you don't, then it will create the same number of replicas according to the template. Clear? Okay, now another portion left is that if you want to upscale, like now you have scaling of three replicas, but now I want it to be 5. How can we do that? We can do this like this: kubectl scale rs replicas equals 5. Okay, provided, oh, I didn't mention the name, so don't worry, it is front end. So the front end replica set has been scaled. Replicas should be 5 now. So if you have kubectl get pods, you have 5 pods running. It created 2 new pods 10 seconds ago. Clear? So if you want to downscale it, so let's say from 5 it should be 2. Again scaled, let's see it. get pods, you have only 2 pods running. Clear? So like this, it is so easy. Just imagine you have a whole website in each pod. Okay, and it is so easy to upscale it and downscale it. Just one command. Another cool feature is that you can do it automatically. It is called something called auto scale. If you look at the documentation, let me show you. Yes, auto scale. Okay, based on CPU percentage, it will upscale and downscale, and you just need to mention the max number of pods it can hold and the minimum number of pods it can hold. It will upscale and downscale according to the CPU usage. Okay, so if you want to do this, let's copy this one as well. Let me show you how this works. Copy and paste it, and our horizontal pod autoscaler got auto scale. Now here is minimum 3, we had 2, so it should now be a minimum of 3 pods. Let's see that. kubectl get pod. Yeah, here you go. Now if the demand is too high, then it will automatically scale. Okay, based on the CPU percentage, as we have mentioned, based on the CPU percentage, it will automatically scale up and down. Here now we don't have any need for that. This is why it is not upscaling. But if there is any need, it will upscale the number of pods present. Clear? So guys, this was all about replica set, a really important object of Kubernetes. But after all this, after knowing about what is replica set, what does it do, why do we need it, we need it for replica creation and maintaining the replica number, consistent number. This thing needs to be keep in mind is that replica set is advised not to create directly. Okay, usually you define a deployment and let that deployment manage the replica set. So like I have told you that when you create a replica set, and you don't have the pre-existing pod, it will automatically create pod according to the template into the replica, the number of replicas you have, right? So similarly, in something called deployment, another object, you mention the same thing. You mention the replica number, and it will handle from replica creation to pod automatically, whether you mention it or not. So guys, it is deployment set is the upper thing in the system architecture. Like pod is encapsulated by replica set, and replica set is encapsulated by deployments. Okay, you don't need to create pod, you can directly create replica set, and you don't need to create replica set or pod, you can directly create deployments. And in general, in practice, in production, we don't create pods or replica set, we directly create the deployment. But why did I discuss replica set today? Because the concept remains the same. Deployments adds an overview, a high level interaction that makes our life easier, and adds a few more features which will be discussed on the next lesson. So guys, if you want to know more about deployments like replica sets that we have discussed today, stay tuned, and that's it for today's session. Bye bye.